What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lollygaggers Dynasty Fantasy Football Show. I am your host, Ace Garcia, with my co-host, the lovely Zang. Zang, how you doing today, my good sir?
I am fantastic. The dynamic duo back together. How you doing?
Yes, sir. Oh, man. Very, very happy to be back. Sorry for the 2-week hiatus to start the year. Schedule has been absolutely all over the place, but I am extremely happy to be back. I love football. I love the NFL. This is like my baby. And Zang has graciously and amazingly held it down over the first 2 weeks. And I sincerely applaud him for that because I definitely would not be able to do this without him. So thank you so much, Zang. I'm very excired.
You bet, absolutely. As I texted Ace, I love yapping, so wasn't too much of a. It was a labor of love, but glad you're back, and then we'll get to recap a little bit. I'm glad we have a football first guy on the show. That's pretty big. I think I did all right, but I'm definitely a baseball first kind of person. So having someone who really knows the league, I'm excited to have you lead.
You definitely did more than all right. Definitely held it down, but I will definitely happily take over here. So we'll get right into we'll get started with our matchup minute. And the first match of the week was Mike taking on Flaming Prius. Prius was favored in this matchup going into it, 57% favored over Mike. However, Mike coming away with the win, 125.94 to 108.84. And it's headlined by no other than the big performance of Caleb Williams against that Dallas defense. Caleb dropping a whopping 29.12 points, 298 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, even carried the ball 5 times for 12 yards as well. Funny enough, in this matchup, we had the two quarterbacks for each team, the two starting quarterbacks, I should say, go head-to-head with each other because Flaming did, of course, have Dak. Dak, not as good as Caleb, of course, only putting up 14.04, 251 passing, the 1 touchdown, 2 picks, did get a 2-point conversion in there as well. However, the leader of Flaming Prius's team, none other than the big day from Jonathan Taylor, 32.8 points, a massive day for the Indianapolis Colts running back, 102 yards with 3 touchdowns, and also had 3 receptions for 16 yards, and the receptions, of course, important because this is a PPR league, as I'm sure we've mentioned plenty of times before. However, Mike getting some more help from the QB position. Sam Darnold had a solid day in that flex spot for Mike. 218 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 16.72 points. Not a whole lot to write home about, but he was the second highest scorer player-wise for Mike, because the second scorer for Mike on his team was the Seattle defense. 1 interception, only 13 points allowed, 2 sacks. That one that one pick they had was a pick 6, and of course they did as well have a blocked kick. There was a lot of defenses that had blocked kicks this past weekend, and I'm sure we'll get into that more. But Zay, what do you think about this first matchup?
Yeah, interesting one here. I mean, first of all, just nice for Mike. It's always fun when your hometown team is scoring a lot of points for you. So pick 6 is exciting as it is, and then when it's like you're like, oh shit, I'm getting points for that on Dynasty. That's awesome. No, interesting spread where, Mike obviously had the big performances from Caleb Williams, and it was pretty well spread out. Huge day, obviously, as you said, from Jonathan Taylor, but not too much otherwise for Prius. Only 2 other, performances in the double digits. That was from Dak and then from Bucky Irving as well. Everyone else in single digits over there. So just a little bit of a lackluster week overall for Prius. And I think it's interesting, as you said, with PPR being such a big thing here. It seems like the weeks when running backs are having their biggest weeks are actually when they have a few receptions. Like you say, he goes 3 for 4 there in reception. So definitely something to keep an eye out if those, running backs who might flex back and forth a little bit might, take, receiving routes, if they might become a little bit more hot commodities when it comes to the trade market.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the running back position, especially in a PPR format, is so highly sought after because the wide receiver is always going to be deep. There's always going to be tons of wide receivers available either on waiver, in the draft, whatever that may be. So for the running back position, finding that, every down back is extremely hard in this league. There's a ton of offenses that are running 2, even 3 down back systems now. So for fantasy purposes, that really sucks because you're trying to find the guy with the most usage possible. And that's why you see a lot of these guys go very very early, especially in Dynasty format. Seeing the strategies of everybody during this draft was definitely interesting to see. But so that was a great matchup there. Like I mentioned, Mike coming away with the win there. That puts him at 2-1. Prius dropping down to 1-2. Our next matchup of the day is going to be my co-host Zang taking on Anna Kendrick. And in this matchup, Zang did come away with the win in dominating fashion, 148.44 to 94.6 points for Anna Kendrick. And this, of course, led by the hometown kid of Zang, Drake May. Didn't have a huge game, but put up a solid stat line nonetheless. 20.22 points, 268 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, did have the 1 pick and a fumble loss, but also carried the ball for 45 yards, 7 carries for 45. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god, also leading the way for Zang with 20.7 points, 7 receptions for 77 yards, lucky 7s, and the 1 touchdown, of course. And Zang also getting big points, showing some kicker love this week. Chase McLaughlin, 5 field goals made on the day, including 2 from 50 plus. He also nailed 2 extra points as well. Anytime you can see a kicker get 18, in that 20 range, that is extremely exciting to see. And over on Anna's side, he did have a solid performance from Gibbs, 26.9 points, 2 touchdowns on the day. Also, we're talking about those receptions, 5 receptions for 32 yards. Carried the ball 22 times for 67, so didn't get a whole lot going on the ground, just over 3 yards per carry. But with those 2 scores, of course, and those 5 receptions, an all-around nice day for him. Another great player for Anna, or I should say another lead player for Anna today, was his other running back, Devon Achane, 12 carries for 62 yards, and once again, those receptions, man, 7 receptions for 29 yards. And so, what do you think about this one, Zang? Obviously, you're 3-0, man, damn!
So, for those with the lore, famously on our 3rd Dynasty Baseball podcast, I said Serial Chillers was comfortably one of the best teams in the league. He won exactly 1 more game after that, after starting 3-0. So I am not getting high. I'm not talking shit. This is just, what do you know? It's happened. But no, I'm pretty excited. Obviously, this was an exciting matchup for me, and something that definitely makes me feel good about it is it was pretty spread out. Quite a few in those like high teen numbers. Mayfield was 17, Judkins was 16, Kincaid was 17. So it's not just that one big like 39-point performance like I've had a couple weeks.
You got 20 from your kicker, man.
And an interesting thing here with the kicker. I actually switched Fairbarn in like 10 minutes before kickoff, because McLaughlin had 2 really bad weeks, and it didn't save.
Not like it would have made a difference.
It wouldn't have made a difference, which I feel better about. I have to say, for a second there, I was like, oh, I'm going to feel really shitty if like this is why I win. It didn't end up being the difference, but I'll consider that the hand of fantasy gods, to quote, Diego Maradona. And that was just nudging the kicker back there. But yeah, 20 points from the kicker. And, of course, my other 2 highest scores also in 20 points.
Yep.
But, so just fractions of points higher than the kicker. That is obviously a handy recipe for success there. And yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. And, again, looking at sort of the formula on the other side for Anna, only 4 players in double digits, a lot of single digits, a lot of low scoring, a couple in the 2s and 3s. So, it's been an interesting start for Anna. I think there's been some back and forth, some underperformance with stuff, but we'll see. There's an interesting matchup coming up next week as well. So obviously feeling pretty good, but not getting too high because I don't want anyone coming back here and being like, you finished.
It is a long season, absolutely. Yeah, and Anna there, just as you mentioned, a couple of the rough starts, but probably none rougher than that Atlanta defense start. 24 points allowed, 1 sack only, had the fumble recovery, but the Falcons, man, nobody saw that one coming, getting shut out 30-0 by the Panthers. I'm talking about upsets. That was a crazy upset.
Yeah, that felt like a pretty safe start.
Yeah,
there,
fantasy owners definitely suffered at the hands of that one there. But definitely interesting. All right, well, we're gonna have to get into this. We'll get it out of the way. my matchup of this day coming up against Al Martinet, the two Chargers fans in the room or in the of the league. Going head-to-head in this one here. Al Martinet was favored going into this matchup, 55% over myself. It ended up being a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Going into Monday night, this was like a 40-point difference, I want to say. But, David Montgomery, and I guess we'll start there, with a massive Monday night performance, 29.4 points. 12 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns, even had a reception for 13 yards as well. Really tried to pull me back in to have a chance. Made it respectable, only losing by about 12 points here. But I don't even think I mentioned Al Martinet won this matchup 120.64 to 108.90. So this was a closer matchup than it looked. And then also on my squad, a couple of other Chargers players coming through for me. Quentin Johnston with 14.9 points. No touchdowns, but he did have 6 receptions at 89 yards. And Cameron Dicker the kicker, with 3 field goals on the day. 12 points for me there. Taking a look at over on Al Martinet's side, his squad led by Bronco players, so that Chargers-Broncos game featuring some high-scoring players in this particular matchup. But Sutton, 6 receptions, 118 yards, and the touchdown. Danny Dimes putting up 15 points, a respectable 15 points, 228 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 27 yards on the ground as well. And then also, TJ Hawkinson, almost read the wrong Vikings player. TJ Hawkinson with a solid performance at the tight end position, dropping to basically 16 points, 5 receptions for basically 50 yards, and that score. And so, this was all around, my team, I'm sure, haven't really got a chance to talk about it, obviously not being on the pod, but my team really suffering after that Joe Burrow injury. Obviously my number 1 overall pick at the 5 spot, done for 3 months. So this season is almost all but chalked. Herbert has definitely been a lot better in terms of passing and fantasy-wise than we expected. Obviously that Chargers team was expected to be very run-heavy, but he has shown out passing the ball very early, so it's the only thing that's kept me somewhat respectable. But I am 0-3 right now, to the surprise of nobody. It's really rough when you lose your first pick like that in week 2 of the season. Not even wanting to mention, not really a bench blunder, because he did win the game, of course, but Al Martinet, do you want to mention this?
My analysis for this was going to be Al Martinet must be so glad he won this game, because a 40 spot and a 20 spot were left on the bench. Either one of those usually loses you the matchup. God. He had both of them and still somehow walked away with the win. And sometimes that's the way it shakes out. I also, would you have believed me if last year I told you 15.8 would be like a really disappointing outing for Daniel Jones? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, seriously, that's insane.
And then
Danny
just
Dimes, man.
Giving you a little bit of love. Quentin Johnston has been a revelation this year, to say the least. Yeah. 14.9, his performance this week is his lowest so far this season. He has been phenomenal. I saw a pretty great tweet, which was a picture of a guy catching a football, and he said, Quentin Johnston, look. And then, recently retweeted it. He was like, oh my God, it worked. Like, because, he's got all the tools and all that stuff. It just wasn't
That's
quite.
Awesome.
And it's working. And so that is in what is obviously, I think, just going to feel like a frustrating season. Like you said, when you lose your first round pick, especially a top 5 pick, especially a quarterback in a top 5 pick, it's just going to be hard to have what feels like a successful season. But that is certainly a nice light there. And as well with Johnston, pretty young guy, only 24. So that in the Dynasty League, as we, think about this stuff, like that is definitely something to look forward to, and being able to kind of stack points there with Herbert.
Yeah, and he was drafted very late in the draft as well. Like, obviously, and for good reason, obviously, Johnston, me being a Chargers fan, I gave up on him. The only reason I really did take him here was just with the pairing of Herbert that I have on my squad as well. Obviously, I have Ladd McConkey there. I traded up for Ladd there, but it's crazy to say that Ladd has been the lowest scoring wide receiver on that Chargers roster.
Yeah.
With Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston now. And Quentin Johnston is the number 8 fantasy wide receiver currently in this format.
Yeah, 18th round pick. So talk about value. I mean, that's
pick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Go look at your 18th round pick and feel a little shitty about yourself. Not Ace, obviously, but
you passed on this man. No, yeah, but very, very happy. Not even just fantasy wise, but as a Chargers fan, insanely happy for the dude. He deserves it. I gave up on him, so I am more than happy to be wrong about him. So happy to see him finding success with the squad. But I will get into this next matchup now with JMC taking on Okie Sooner. Okie Sooner coming into this one 2-0. JMC coming into this one 1-1. Okie favorite in this matchup, 57% over JMC, but JMC defying the odds, underdogging it, coming up with the dub, 144.56 to 102.14. So in football terms, in Football Dynasty, 30 points is, not a blowout by any means, but that's a pretty hefty, solid win there. A little bit different than in the Dynasty Baseball League, where 30 points is, oh my god, that was insanely close. For football, it's a little bit different, but let's get into JMC's winning squad here. And of course, leading his team, none other than his first round pick, Josh Allen, with 23 points on the day, 213 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. And of course, Allen, he's going to carry that ball, 4 carries for 25 yards as well. Kyron Williams also having a huge day for JMC, 20 carries for 94 yards, and of course 2 receptions to boot with that reception touchdown. The running back for JMC as well, Kenneth Walker, had a solid day with 18 points. Not many yards, only 38 yards on 16 carries, but he had 2 touchdowns and a reception for 12 yards. So you will definitely take those scoring points absolutely all day, every day. Roma Dunze also showing out for him, 15 points, only 3 receptions, but 62 yards and the touchdown. And the Bucs defense, although they gave up a lot of points, the special teams but the defense in general had a massive day with a pick, 4 sacks, a forced fumble, the fumble recovery, and the scoop and score, of course. They put up 15 points on the day. Looking over on Okie's side, Puka Nacua with a massive day, 22.8 points, had 1 carry for 6 yards, but of course he's a receiver, 11 receptions for 112 yards, no score, and that's maybe a little bit criminal. That Eagles game against the Rams, was that a wild one, huh? We want to talk about blocked kicks, the ending to that matchup, man.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, bettors were upset with that one, I think it was Rams plus 4.5 or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's what I saw.
That is a horrible break for them.
Yeah.
We feel for y'all.
And so you remember how I said Al Martinet's got to be really glad that he won that matchup because he had a ton of points on the bench?
Yes.
Tough one for Okie. We had a 24, a 27, and a 14 all left on the bench. Now, JMC actually won by a ton, so it would have taken, I think, pretty much a perfect start
swaps
here. Yeah, perfect swaps out, but that hurts. that hurts nonetheless, to leave that many points on the bench. And especially, when you're seeing 27 from a tight end and, Zach Ertz puts up 6 points there and you're seeing 24 from a running back and you've got Kamara in your flex spot putting up 6 points. Like that definitely stings a little bit. And I know as, we all know how much, total points and point differential and all that stuff starts to come into play later. So even in losses, this stuff can be and wins, I guess I should say, can be important. But yeah, I mean, JMC, he always has a ticket there with Josh Allen. Like any week he goes into it, sort of feels like he has a chance to win. And I know he was saying at the beginning of the week, he's like, "Ooh, I don't know. I got a lot of it going early. I'm a little iffy on it." Like with Josh Allen, and again, quote unquote, only 23.2, but feels like he's kind of always got a good chance there. And again, Okie Sooner just with the sort of surplus problem I mentioned last week. He's almost got too many good players, and in this case, it did, as I mentioned, it might come back to kind of bite him in that he had so many points left on the bench there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so unfortunate, too. You mentioned the tight end position with Andrews and Ertz. I mean, Ertz is the 7th-ranked tight end after this week. Andrews is the 10th-ranked tight end after this week. Like,
right.
That is just such a brutal, a bad beat there. And then, Hampton, obviously, me being a Chargers fan, I did not expect Hampton to pop off for this game. You also don't really expect the Najee injury, so that's 25 points there that, if you expect Najee to go down that early, obviously just with the sheer volume that Hampton's going to get, you almost certainly start him. I think I would have started him over Kamara, as good as Kamara is, just based on the team around him and stuff like that. But, obviously, hindsight's 2020. It is a rough one for Okie Sooner. They both come away from this week 2-1.
Yeah. Speaking of rough ones.
Oh, man. Yeah, this one. Rangers, it's okay, buddy.
Welcome to Dynasty, baby.
Rangers, I can hug you, brother. I feel your pain. It's rough out there, but let's get right into it. Rangers, Cowboys up against Bows, Bros, and O's. Rangers heavily favored in this one, the biggest favorite of the week, 59% over Bows coming into this matchup. And this one was a heartbreaker, ladies and gentlemen. Rangers, Cowboys, 143.32. Bows, 146.40, a 3.08 point victory, margin of victory, I should say, for Team Bows here, to pull him to 2-1, and unfortunately, Rangers falling into the basement with me at 0-3. Let's get into the matchup a bit here. Bows with massive games from a couple of Eagles players here. Jalen Hurts breaking out with the 3 touchdown passes. Of course, he had to get a tush push in there. Added on another 8 carries on top of that tush push for 40 yards. Did have a fumble loss, though, to rob him of that 30-point performance. But it did not matter. Well, actually, it almost mattered with how close this score was. So definitely an exciting player there. And the Eagles, something that, everybody was questioning. Are they going to be able to throw the ball? Is Jalen going to be able to throw the ball? He definitely proved he can throw the ball in that matchup against the Rams. Another Eagles player that we mentioned, a clean 20 points from Devontae Smith, 8 receptions, 60 yards, and the tutty. A Bills player for Bows also coming in huge for him with another 20-point performance from James Cook, 108 rushing yards with the rushing touchdown, adding on 3 catches for 10 yards. Jordan Mason coming in for the injured Aaron Jones for the Vikings, and he balled out. 16 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns, 23 points on the day in his quote-unquote starting debut for the Vikings. The Vikings putting the whooping on the Burrow-less Bengals this past weekend, 48-10. So fantasy owners that picked up Jordan Mason or that had him, a lot of people drafted him kind of in pair, I should say, with Aaron Jones for this particular reason. But, for those who got him on the waiver wire, he probably won you a lot of games this week. Taking a look over on Rangers side, leading the way for him was Garrett Wilson with his breakout performance of the year. 24 points for 10 receptions, 84 yards, and the touchdown. Nico Collins having a great day as well. 8 receptions, 104 yards, and the touchdown. Did have a fumble lost. Otherwise, he would have had the exact same amount of points as Garrett Wilson, which is kind of funny. But, that's the way it works. George Pickens, so the wide receivers leading the way here for Team Rangers. Like I mentioned, George Pickens, 5 receptions, 68 yards, and the touchdown for 17.8 points. And the Steelers defense, 20 even points as well. Had a pick, that 14 points allowed to your Patriots. I'm sorry, Zang. 5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. Yeah, that one was a brutal one to watch.
I was sure that was going to be the most valuable defense by a mile. They fumbled the ball so many times. I was like, this is going to be like a 60-point defensive day. And then there was actually another defensive team that scored more, which I couldn't believe. But yeah,
we'll get into that.
Now we'll get there soon.
We'll get there soon. But yeah, definitely a surprising day to say the least. Do you want to mention? We'll mention the bench blunders here. Because Rangers had a hometown guy that could have won him this matchup.
Yeah, Jake Ferguson here, 21.2 was with the tight end. This is the second week in a row he outscored Travis Kelce on the bench, and the second week in a row that as our stolen bit says, not a math pod, but 10 is more, or pardon me. Let's see.
15.
15 is more than 3, so that would have won him the matchup. 2 weeks in a row now losing the matchup because he didn't start your hometown tight end. We all know that when he starts Ferguson next week, he's going to put up like 2 points while Kelce puts up 35 or something like that. We just that's the way it is, and we have to trust it. But yeah, I to sort of quote Rangers himself in the Discord, 0-3 after losing by 1.9, 3.7, 3.08.
Yeah.
What do you say to that? I mean, and he put up a great week here. 2 20-point performances from the wide receivers, another 20 from the defense, as you mentioned. Solid work from the quarterbacks. It's so tough. And Bose, frankly, just had an unbelievable week. We'll get down to it a little bit more later when we talk about kind of accuracy, but he was within a fraction of a point of a perfect start. So it literally took that to take Rangers down this, and hey, he did.
Just to twist the knife a little bit more, Jake Ferguson is currently the number 1 leading tight end in this format.
That's
sorry, Rangers. All right, on to the next matchup.
Let's go.
Final matchup of the day, and this one was probably, if not the most exciting, obviously, with that, or the closest, I should say, with that Rangers Bows. This one was probably the most exciting one because it did come down to Monday Night Football. There was a chance here between KJ Lee and Sammy Yanks, excuse me. KJ Lee did take this one, though, 151 to 136, leading the way for KJ. Jackson Smith-Njigba with 96 yards, 5 receptions, and the touchdown. And we talked about it in the last matchup. There was another defense that outshined the Steelers defense this past week, and that was the Minnesota Vikings, a whopping 35 points on the day, 2 interceptions, 4 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, recovered 3 of them, and 2 interceptions to boot. Only 10 points allowed to the Jake Browning-led Bengals, as I mentioned earlier. Oh my God, man. I mean, just watching this match, MVP, almost hit my mic there. MVP of this Vikings defense, though, you could almost pin these many points on Isaiah Rodgers, as he had both touchdowns on the day, with one of those being a pick, the other one being the scoop and score. I think he actually had both interceptions, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Just an all-around, for those of you who know what PFF is, Pro Football Focus, of course, they do their gradings each and every week for each and every player. Isaiah Rodgers earned himself the first ever perfect PFF score, or PFF rating. He was rated a 99.9 this week.
Oh my God.
That is just insane to think about. I am so happy to say that I witnessed the perfect game played by a defensive player.
Maybe the only time I'm a little bit sad we're not playing IDP, and somebody would have had him. Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, Vikings defense outside of the wide receiver, who we'll get to in a little bit in bench blunders, who did score 40 points on the bench. Defense was the highest scoring player the entire week. Not a quarterback, not another the defense for the Vikings. So yeah, clearly a pretty important piece in KJ's win here. It won him the matchup. We can be honest, 151 to 136 there, that a normal defense, just sort of defensive day, quote unquote, 10-ish points, and we're looking at a much closer matchup, if not a win for Sammy. So that's
Man, what
so ridiculous! 35 points
from a defense. That's insane. You never see that. But I mean, this Jake Browning. I mean, Bengals. If the Bengals are at any point serious at all about wanting to somewhat try to compete this year while Burrow's out, they need to make calls for another quarterback because Jake Browning is not it. But that's the topic for a whole other podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been my sort of little theme has been the Sammy formula. Lamar for 27, CMC for 24. That's gonna most weeks get it done. So it basically takes like a miracle defensive performance to take down Sammy right now. That's kind of what we're looking at. So.
And it's basically what KJ got was a performance. I mean, 35 points from your defense puts him at 1-2. That is going to break Sammy's undefeated streak at, of course, 2-0. We're very early, but that's a rough way to get your first loss handed to you off a 35-point performance off a defense. And Lamar, like you mentioned, solid performances all around from his team. Lamar 27, Christian McCaffrey 24, Tyreek even having 16. He even got 15 points from the defense, which is, getting that from your defense is pretty solid. I mean, you take 15 points from your defense any day of the week, but man, 35. And although there were, I will say, Sammy did have a chance to win this matchup, and you want to get into how he could have won that.
Well, there's a little bit of a blunder there. Hunter Henry with 29 points on the bench. You've said a couple times you wouldn't have seen something coming. I sure as shit would not have seen this coming. You don't expect it, but so a little bit of a tough losing blunder there in terms of, starting Hunter Henry. And just to twist the knife on the other 11 of us a little bit more, Minnesota Vikings added from free agency. So any one of you could have had those 35 points this week. But of course, KJ is the one who gets that. So that feels a little bit even better for him, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. And Hunter Henry, for those who know, if you know, you know, Chargers legend, Hunter Henry.
Chargers legend.
Let's get on to it, Zane, though. Why don't you tell us about the standings we got after these Week 3 matchups?
Touch on the standing segment. So alone in first place at 3-0 is Zangarang. That's me. Again, not no. This,
who let you lead this segment?
This is. It's also, I would put significant money down that I am the least quote unquote football guy in this league. And that's like so on track for fantasy football that I'm leading the league at 3-0. Moving on, we do have our group of 2-1. Nice a solid bunch here. Sammy is leading that group in second place. JMC in third. Bose in fourth, with Mike in fifth place and Al Martinet in sixth. Finally, our last 2-1 is Okie Sooner in seventh place. Starting off our 1-2 group is KJ Lee, obviously getting that first win. The big one over Sammy. He is 1-2, followed by Flaming Prius in ninth, Anna Kendrick in 10th, and then finally our two Mr. 0-3s, Rangers Cowboys in 11th, and we get to use the phrase for you now, our resident basement dweller in 12th place. I don't know how long you'll be there, but
Well, with the Burrow injury, I might be there all season.
About halfway through that sentence, I was like, "Oh my god, the Joe Burrow thing! Don't say that."
Yeah, hey, at least we're sandwiching this league. You're leading it, and I'm bringing up the rear.
Exactly. Yeah, and maybe it's just tradition for the host and league commissioner to be in one of the bottom two spots. So, continuing on the tradition.
I suppose so. But we'll get into it. Those are obviously the standings there. Let's get into the bench blunders now of the week. First up of the day. Myself with the Eagles defense, 13 points they scored. I went with the Patriots defense after seeing the Steelers. I thought, Patriots, they have a great front seven. They lead the league in sacks. They should be able to catch up to old man Rodgers. The Patriots didn't get a single sack. That one was really rough there, to say the least.
Not a fun watch.
Not a fun watch as well. Allowed less points than the Eagles, but when you have a pick and two blocked kicks, with one of those going back at the end of the game for a touchdown, it's a bad beat there. Totally understand that. Would have won me the matchup as well, but I don't feel bad about it one bit because Al Martinet with the bench blunder of the week, although I can't really say the bench blunder given the fact that he A, won the matchup, and B, how the hell are you going to expect a career game from Trey Tucker? 40.9 points, as we mentioned earlier. I mean, just in what was the ultimate, oh my God, why am I blanking? Empty calories, thank you. The empty calorie performance in a 24-41 loss to Washington. Trey Tucker puts up 8 receptions for 145 yards and 3 fucking touchdowns.
I mean, again, I know I'm not like super, super deep in football, but you absolutely could have convinced me that Trey Tucker was like a create a player on Madden. Like, this is
my favorite thing to say is, like, because it's so early in the season, is like if an alien came down to Earth and you had to show them 1 week of football and you showed them this week of football, they would come away thinking that Trey Tucker is the best receiver in the league.
Best receiver in the world, yeah.
I mean, and that's just that's insane. But I mean, that's why I love fantasy. And yeah, so just ridiculous performance by him. Shout out Trey Tucker. And thankfully, Al Martinez not going to lose any sleep over this one. Would have been even worse if it was a Raider that, of all people, lost you the matchup. But he didn't have to worry about it, thankfully. So it is what it is. Moving on next to the next bench blunder. Anna Kendrick with Khalil Shakir on his bench, 14.5 points. Didn't really matter. He, of course, that was the biggest blowout of the week, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not surprising there, and not upsetting as well. Bose with 7 points from Nick Chubb. Not really a bench blunder if you think about it as well. Bose won the game, but just, have to take it for what it was. Flaming Prius with a big bench blunder here. Cam Scatterbu with 24 points. Flaming definitely could have used those points in that matchup. However, his opponent, Mike, with a ton of bench blunders, quote unquote bench blunders as well. A lot of points on his bench as well. So you take that with what it is. KJ Lee, AJ Brown on his bench. Man, you want to talk about the middle finger. AJ Brown scoring absolutely nothing his first 2 weeks of the season. And then when all his fantasy managers bench him with the inevitable matchup against the tough Rams defense, he says, yeah, no, here's 23 points for y'all for your bench squads. So definitely a rough one there for KJ. Did come away with the win, though. So, again, did not matter in the grand scheme. Mike Copeland, as we mentioned, with one of his bench blunders. Michael Pittman, 19 points there. Didn't matter as he took the dub as well. Okie Sooner, we talked about this one. This one did matter. 27 points from Mark Andrews and 25 points from Hampton. Just an absolute brutal break there from Okie. She definitely will be having nightmares about those two.
53 on the bench is
53
diabolical work.
Yeah, and that's a brutal stretch there. And I feel you as a Chargers fan with that Hampton. Rangers, we talked about it. Jake Ferguson, 21 points. You want to talk about brutal? That's a hometown player for you that could have won you back-to-back weeks on your bench. Heartbreaking, to say the least. Sammy Bell, like we mentioned as well. Hunter Henry with 29 points. That one is tough to lose sleep over. He's also currently the 3rd-ranked tight end in football right now in fantasy. Insane. And Zang can't really have a bench blunder when you put up almost 150, but he had Darnell Mooney on his bench for 8.4. Yeah. Zang, why don't you tell us about the team of the week?
Team of the week, absolutely. Caleb Williams leads the way at quarterback with 29.1 for Mike. Jonathan Taylor is our first running back, 32.8 for Prius, with David Montgomery, his 29.4 for Ace as our second running back. Garrett Wilson's 24.4 for Rangers, and Cortland Sutton's 23.8 for Al Martinet. Made up our wide receiver room. Dalton Kincaid with 17.6 on that Thursday night game for Zang was our leading tight end, but was actually the 4th best tight end of the week. So sort of the 4th choice overall there. As we obviously mentioned quite a few tight ends who were benched. For flex, Jahmyr Gibbs with 26.9 on Anna Kendrick's team did lead the way in that loss. Jalen Hurts with 29, of course, we mentioned for Bose. Chase McLaughlin and his 20 points on my bench. Note on my starting roster was our best kicker, and Minnesota Vikings defense. We obviously gave them their flowers there for KJ Lee with 35 points. That's your team of the week.
Absolutely. And that's getting right into the league leaders for this week. The most efficient team of the week, basically the way we judge that is out of the maximum amount of points you potentially could have scored. That means starting all of your highest scoring players at each of their given positions versus who you actually started. Bose, almost to perfection by 0.3. He did not get it. 146.40 out of the possible 146.70 potential points. Insane work there from Bose. Well done, sir. And he needed every bit of it with the 3-point win over Team Rangers. So insane, and congratulations there, sir. The least efficient of the week was Oki, and it was a brutal one. 102.14 of his potential 149.34 points. Those 149.34 would have been enough to beat JMC. However, you also take into account JMC's. I believe his potential points were higher, so take that with a grain of salt for what you will. The highest points in a loss, as if we needed to twist the knife anymore, was Rangers, 143.3. Of course, losing to Bose, 146.4. And the lowest points in a win coming from Al Martinet against myself, 120.6 for him, 108.9 for myself. And yeah, the Chargers, that's typical Charger game, low scoring, but they're gonna, grind you out and eventually come away with the win, as we've seen so far this year. So congratulations to Al Martinet there. Biggest blowout of the week, shocker, was Zang over Anna Kendrick, 148-94, a 53.84 differential. So as we mentioned, the biggest blowout there. Congratulations, Zang, looking dominant to start the year, 3-0, and the narrowest victory coming from Bose over Rangers. I'm so sorry, Rangers. This is just like,
we love you, man.
We love you so much. I feel your pain at 0-3 with you. If anybody can relate to your brother, I can relate. So I'm sorry. This will be the last time we have to mention it. But the narrowest victory is coming from Bose here, 146-143, a 3.08 point difference. The overachiever of the week is my podcast host, Zang, 148.4 scored, only projected 127.8, so almost 20, or actually, 20 points more.
It's the first time I've ever been called an overachiever in my life, so this feels really nice.
Love it. Yeah. So obviously, like we mentioned, Zang 3-0. He is just on a run right now. Jinx. No, I'm joking. No. The underachiever of the week is Anna Kendricks. Man, that's just brutal. Not only is the biggest blowout, but also underachiever of the week. Anna Kendrick was favored in this matchup, projected 132 to Zang's 127, but Anna only able to put up 94.6. So a rough day to say the least for Anna.
What do we always say though? If you're going to put up your lowest points, do it against the highest scorer.
Correct.
Man. Yep. I wasn't quite the highest scorer because KJ had the
second highest.
the Super Saiyan offense, but second highest. So hey, not bad. I am so thankful that I did not have to recap this at 3-0. I think we might have owed Rangers a new phone after he broke his, because listening to that from 3-0 would have been terrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll move down to our wasted waivers. That is, just a few guys on the benches on the waiver wire. Pardon me, not even on the bench that you might be able to pick up. We'll start off with Rashad Bateman, wide receiver out in Baltimore, who put up 17.3 on the week. Tyquan Thornton, another wide receiver out in Kansas City, put up 18.1. And our quarterback of the week was Geno Smith, obviously for Las Vegas now. He did put up 26 points even there. So a few guys to keep on your radar if you're looking to fill in a spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking some nice guys there on the wasted waiver wire. So we'll get into the transactions tracker. Not many transactions going on. A couple of pickups, couple of drops there. No trades to say the least, though. So nothing to say the least. Zang, take us home, baby.
Yeah.
What is going on next week?
Next week's notes. Week 4, we're going to start off with Al Martinet versus Anna Kendrick. Al Martinet's coming in 2-1. Anna Kendrick coming in 1-2. This is projected 57% for Al Martinet over Anna Kendrick. JMC versus Bose is our second matchup. This one has them tied in record at 2-1 and tied in win probability at 50-50. Definitely excited to see how that one shakes out with a couple of 2-1 teams. KJ Lee versus Oki Sooner is our third matchup. KJ at 1-2 with Oki at 2-1. This does have 54% of KJ Lee over Oki Sooner. Ace Garcia versus Mike 0-3. Versus 2-1 is our fourth matchup. Again, another 50-50 projected for this one, so we'll have to see how that shakes out. Rangers Cowboys looking for his first win versus Flaming Prius, who is sitting at 1-2. It does have Prius with a 52% chance of winning this matchup over Rangers. And finally, our last matchup, our sort of headliner of the week, is the 1 and 2 in the league going up against each other. It is Zang at 3-0 versus Sammy Yanks at 2-1. And despite the fact that it is, 1 and 2, this is the biggest percentage in favor of somebody. 61% for Sammy over me. I have a feeling the win streak may be coming to an end. When I look at Sammy's team, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna need another King Henry miracle to keep my streak alive. But that's what Dynasty's for. That's what fantasy football's for. You never know. So that's what our matchups are looking like.
Yeah, 61%, man. That's a huge favor. You typically don't see anything past the 50s. So
it's usually in the 50s, yeah. So 39% shot. I'm like, come on, man.
I almost, being a betting man myself, I almost would take just based on that point line. I would go with you. I just that line 61%. That's kind of scary, but that's probably the most exciting matchup of the week. 3-0 versus 2-1. The only 3-0 team taking on a 2-1 team. So very excited to see that. But that is going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for welcoming me back to what I originally was going to be my idea, and then in time just absolutely killed me, and Zang absolutely nailed it and kept this ship not only floating but succeeding and pursuing. So very happy to have him alongside me here, and we will see you next week.
Absolutely. The fantasy gods, may they bless you.
When you come out in NFL lollygagging and not going through the motions, that kind of what happens.